yourself with a name and the name of your street.
Hi, my name is Michelle and I live on Chestnut Parkway in Wallingford. The precautionary principle is a philosophical and legal approach to innovations that possess a potential cause for harm when extensive scientific knowledge on the matter is lacking. It is often used in policymaking when there's a possibility of harm and conclusive evidence not yet available. It implies that there is a social responsibility to protect the public from harm when scientific investigation has found a plausible risk. These precautions should only be relaxed when scientific findings provide sound evidence that no harm will result. In shutting down schools and decimating the social lives of children, policymakers rashly abandon this sound principle, instead thrusting children into known scientifically proven harm. It is well documented that social health directly impacts mental and physical health, and the traumatic disruption of social constructs, schools, sports, church, family gatherings has devastating effects, especially on children and teens. Our youth were already suffering epidemic levels of depression, anxiety, addiction, eating disorders, and suicide, yet policymakers such as yourselves choose to exacerbate this devastation on children's mental health, even there was no evidence that returning to normal would pose a risk to them or anyone else. And even as all evidence continued, and to this day shows COVID-19 to pose nearly zero harm to our children, those charged with protecting our children chose harmful and abusive policies. This must stop immediately. Your abandonment of the precautionary principle with regard to our children's health has caused catastrophic consequences that will span generations. The definition of abuse is a non-accidental action which causes or creates substantial risk of physical or emotional injury to a child. Your policies fit this definition. You have violated social, ethical, and professional contracts to keep our children safe and instead used your position to knowingly cast children directly into harm using the classic abuse tactics of psychological manipulation and emotional blackmail. And now it gets worse. Moving beyond this first stage of abuse to an unthinkable act of irreversible harm by promoting, coercing, and further manipulating children to become subjects of massive medical experimentation, using our tax-funded facilities and staff to inject healthy, risk-free children with a risky, unimproved pharmaceutical product. No one has an idea whether these shots will cause infertility or cancer. Once that experimental shot is injected, there is no undoing it. If an entire generation is rendered infertile as a result of this medical experimentation on children, there will be no going back. Remember, the Nazi doctors tried at Nuremberg were not pardoned on grounds that they were just following orders from their superiors. All persons of authority who are complicit in committing these crimes against humanity on our children will be held to account for the irreversible damage inflicted. Our children are not human test subjects for the pharmaceutical industry. Our school tax dollars are not to be spent in promoting, marketing, coordinating, or implementing medical experimentation on children, and especially not within the institutions designed to provide education. We demand that you immediately halt all COVID-19 related restrictions on children within our public school system and prohibit any further promotion on any medical interventions, especially those are which experimental. If the teachers union will not comply with these demands, we urge all of our big-hearted, child-loving teachers to withdraw from these extortionist unions. If a school teacher is fearful of their workplace, then we suggest that they follow an alternative career path rather than insist on the use of practices that harm children. You have been entrusted with overseeing the education of our children, and that is all. Your uninhibited promotion of pharmaceutical products within our schools is an inappropriate abuse of power and may even qualify as providing medical advice without a license. This must end now. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? Okay, I don't think we have any other comments. So I'd like to thank our district families that have contacted us this evening. That takes us to our next section on the agenda, which is school board reports. Does anyone have a report from a district subcommittee or out of district role?